Alright, this is going to be a tier list of all the mice basically out right now, or at least most of them. A few of the old ones, as you can see, and a few mice that are going to be coming out soon. I've seen a lot of people do tier lists lately, so I figured I should do one. The Aerox 3 Wireless is going to go in C tier. The build quality is just so bad on it. You really can't recommend it. It's so inconsistent. The Air 58 we're going to put in don't buy. Um, I can't see you wasting. I just don't recommend anybody wasting $300 to $50 on this mouse and still having to paracord and put some aftermarket feet on it, and potentially buying a few backup scroll wheels, and then you'd probably just have to buy more feet, if you were just gonna take them off. The Booga Mouse obviously don't buy. Um, yeah. The Burst Core is gonna go in C tier. It is a pretty solid mouse for the price. It's $30, but it does come with a rubber cable and some really bad feet. So for that, I'm gonna have to put it in C tier. Burst Pro is gonna go in A tier. It uses the Titan optical switches, which a lot of people don't like, but a lot of people do like, or say that is average and dealable with. The shape is described to me, at least. I've never personally used the mouse as a less aggressive XM1. So if you think the XM1 is a little bit too aggressive, people suggest you to try out the Burst Pro. It does come with a pretty stiff cable, but the feet I've heard are pretty solid, and the side buttons are huge. So, and this Rocket has like the best scroll wheels ever. So, the Cox CM600 is gonna go in don't buy. This mouse was pretty hyped when it came out, but the build quality just goes so bad on it. Just because it was light, it was hyped, but the switches feel pretty bad on it, and the just everything about it is pretty bad. The look, the feet, everything. It's just a Chinese mouse. The Darmo Shark N1, I'm pretty sure this is what this is gonna go in don't buy. It's really only viable for palm grip, so just don't get it. The Deathadder V2 Mini is gonna go in C tier. A lot of people hate this mouse. I don't hate it. The cable is pretty average, but the feet I've heard are pretty good, and it does use V2 opticals and their updated scroll wheel look. And their updated scroll wheel look is pretty nice. I just don't think the Deathadder shape is necessarily meant to be small, so for that it's gonna go in C tier. The Deathadder V2 is going to go in C tier. It does use the better SpeedFlex cable. These are both marketed as the SpeedFlex cables, but the Deathadder V2 Mini and the Viper Mini use a cheaper SpeedFlex cable that's pretty bad, and then the original Viper and Deathadder V2 use the better SpeedFlex cable that comes on their more premium wired mice. The EC series is going to go in D tier. There's a ton of clones on this list of the EC2 that are just simply better. The FK2, I'm going to get all the Zowie out of the way because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for ranking Zowie in B. The only one I'm not going to rank in B is the EC, only because if you want, I'll explain it in a second once I get to the ZA, if I can find the ZA. Where is the ZA? I don't know where the ZA is. Anyway, we'll find it later. Oh, it's already in B tier. I'm sorry. And then I need the S2. The reason I have these in B tier is because the FK2 hasn't been cloned yet. It's been cloned by the Ducky Feather, but that was a complete fail. The build quality on it is just terrible. The side buttons are terrible, and they're on both sides, so that's already a fail. Every FK that's out there is usually an FK1 clone. Like the Viper Ultimate, the Model O, the Model O Wireless, all those are all FK1 clones, not FK2 or FK1 Plus. The FK2 and FK1 Plus have not been successfully cloned yet. And for that, they are still unique shapes, so if you want an FK2 clone, you are most likely going to have to get, I guess you would have to get an FK2, same with the FK1 Plus. Same with all the ZA series, they haven't been cloned yet. The closest that they've gotten is the M42, and that's still not a clone yet. It's a much shorter. And the S2 hasn't been cloned besides the Naos or Naus M, but we'll get to that in a second. That mouse was we'll get to that. The G Pro X Superlight S tier. Also going back to Zowie, all they need is a paracord and some feet, and they're still average mice to today's standards. The G Pro X Superlight, I mean, it doesn't need any really explanation. It's a 60-gram wireless mouse. It could have used better side buttons. The side buttons have actually gotten worse from the normal G Pro wireless, and they're not even magnetic. And people say the feet do get pretty bad after a few weeks, although they're extremely fast when you first get them. The G203 is going to go in A tier. All it needs is a paracord and some feet to be A tier mouse. It's $15 usually on sale. $15. Like, that's just insane. The G305 is going to go in D tier. The only reason you should be getting a G305 is unless it's you need a cheap wireless mouse, which I think I would still recommend the Rival 3, honestly. Or you need to PCB swap or make a wireless mouse. A lot of people, like, if I wanted to make a wireless XM1, you would use a G305 PCB in the shell of an XM1, and then you do a bunch of stuff. That's like what all the wireless mods use, the G305 PCB. So unless you're not getting it for the for the wireless modding, or you don't need a very cheap wireless mouse, which that's still not even my top recommendation, just don't get it. The G402 is going to go and don't buy. Same with the G502. The G Pro Hero is also going to. It's the exact same shape as the G203 with worse buttons, worse coding, and it's $40 more, $45 more. It's like $60 still, which is just absurd. The G Pro Wireless is going to go and don't buy. The G Pro X is $20 more for a 20 grams less. I don't get it. No side buttons on the right that don't get in your way, or you don't feel like the little plastic covers. Better feet, stock. I don't get why you just wouldn't get a G Pro X. And I want to bring this up. The double clicking has not been fixed on this mouse. Well, at least I hope it has, but if they just swap the switches, it has not been. The G Pro Wireless has been using Omron 20Ms for the past 5 months. Nobody noticed. People still think the G Pro Wireless uses 50Ms. It doesn't. They updated it like 5 months ago. And they still double click with the 20Ms in them. And I know that firsthand because mine was a 20M copy that double clicked in 4 days. So I don't know what people are talking about that the 20Ms won't double click in a G Pro Wireless. The mouse just must have had like some type of internal issue that they just decided never to fix, but I really do hope it's fixed on this. But if they didn't change anything, and it's not going to be fixed, like, I'm sorry. The Pulsefire Haste is going to go in S tier. You literally do not need to mod it, and it's $45. It's just an amazing mouse. The buttons use TTC golds. They feel amazing. They're extremely responsive, and the side buttons are pretty solid too. And it's like 58 grams. My favorite stock paracord on the market. Hottie S B tier. It would be A tier if the quality control wasn't so bad still, and it didn't go to complete shit after like a month. The buttons just completely are terrible after like a month. So I would just not recommend it. And you're paying like $100, and you have to wait like 4 weeks to get it usually, or 2 to 4 weeks. The Hottie is gonna go in C tier. They still have not updated the build quality on it. They just need to. I think they kind of just forgot about this mouse, honestly. They just throw random colorways out there and hope people buy it. The HSK is going to go in C tier. It's a fingertip only mouse. They never released it. G-Wolves. Literally fingertip only. There's no side buttons, and you physically cannot do anything but fingertip it. If you want to look it up, you can look up the shape. I'm telling you, it's physically impossible to do any other grip. It was only sent out for review copies. I'm pretty sure it was scrapped. People said the buttons felt completely terrible on it, but it is really light. The Kane 200 is just a brick. The KPU is going to go in B tier. All it needs is a paracord and some feet to be in A or S tier, but it's pretty bad stock. I'm using it right now. And it's extremely unsafe also, so I wouldn't rank it any higher. The M42 is going to go in A tier. lightweight mouse that you can actually change the shape of. You can go from a smaller ZA13, which it apparently it still doesn't feel exactly like a ZA, or a very small model FK clone, which it still doesn't really feel like an FK clone. It just feels a lot like a Model O wireless, but longer. Apparently, people have said, or a little bit wider. The Matar mouse, don't buy it. The M4 is gonna go in B tier. It's an extremely aggressive mouse. It would be, I think, A tier, honestly. I do have one coming in that I traded for. But the shape is extremely unsafe. Like, if you don't want to use a new shape that you've never tried before and you like G Pro wirelesses, just don't even look at this mouse. But for the price range, it's one of the best ergo mice in its price range. The Mirror S, D tier. It has some quality control issues still, and it's too heavy for its size. It's a tiny mouse, and it's like 60 grams, I think. It doesn't sound heavy, obviously, but for the size, it feels heavier than what it is. The MM710 D tier quality control. Everybody knows about the MM710 quality control. It's terrible. They really need to fix it. The MM720 B tier. It uses LK switches, which are literally V1 Razer opticals. It's the same manufacturer. LK manufactures Razer's opticals. And I've heard there's a lot of travel on them. But the shape is extremely interesting. And there's no quality control issues on it. And it's pretty light. And the cable is really solid on it. So for that, it's going to go in B tier. Oh boy, here we go to Glorious. I'm going to get the Model O wireless out of the way first. It's going to go in A tier. Wireless FK1. Sick. It uses USB-C. The charging is insanely fast. And the quality control has gotten a lot better on it. Same with the build quality, but it's not perfect yet, so I'm not going to put it in S tier. Okay. Glorious mice. D tier. They just don't want to update the build quality on them. I don't know what they're doing. Once they got done with the Model O series and went on to the D series, they never updated the O series build quality ever again. Ever. And then once they got done with the D series and went on to the Model O wireless, they never updated the D series. They just left it. The build quality is still completely terrible on all four of these mice. People get like cracked mice. It's weird. Literally, if you push on the sides, they just go inside. Like, the whole shell just breaks. The XM1, this is going to go for the XM1R and XM1 RGB. S tier. All of these mice you don't even need to touch, and it's S tier. Just like perfect claw shape for like medium-ish hands and above. Small hands, I wouldn't recommend this mouse just because it's so wide. Same with the Pulsefire Haste. I could say that for the Pulsefire Haste is a gigantic mouse. The XM1 is just a really nice mouse. And on the XM1R, they updated the side buttons, so that's even better. I think it's pronounced Naos or Naus M. I said I would get to this in a minute. This was the worst mouse, I think, of 2020. Like, the worst flop mouse of 2020. They didn't even align the shell right on some copies. They were just getting plastic on plastic when you tried to click it. Nothing would actuate. They didn't align the shell right, and it had like holes in the scroll wheel. Like, the plastic had like holes in it. It was weird. And they sold it for $70, and virtually every single copy of this mouse had extreme pre and post travel. Because they just didn't take their time. $70 for this, it was just terrible. And the cable was not very good either, from what I recall. NPO1 is going to go in B tier. It's the creator, the old workers at Zowie made their own company, and they spit out the NPO1. It's a 78 gram mouse. It's ergonomic, hybrid-ish. The back is ergonomic. The front is more ambidextrous. It's not meant to look nice. It's just meant as a performance mouse, and it does that really well. There's literally no travel on the buttons. Literally, it's if you want a mouse, if you are very picky about pre and post travel on your side buttons or main triggers, go with this mouse. But the scroll wheel is more Zowie than Zowie. It's extremely loud, but it is 24-step, and it has a different coding virtual in every single part of the mouse. The right and the flick have a different coating than the back. And I'm not sure about the side buttons, or like the sides. But the cable is pretty bad. And the feet are pretty bad too. So B tier. But it would be an A tier if they had better feet and a better cable. Ponage Ultra Custom is going to go in A tier. It's an EC2 clone. It does have some build quality issues because you can take the back off, the triggers, and the DPI button, and replace it with different colors. So if you wanted a blue shell, a completely blue mouse, you could buy a blue shell from them and put it on. They're like $12 per like whole pack, which comes with the triggers, the shell, and the DPI button. But obviously what comes with that is some post travel on the switches, just because you're replacing them consistently, and they don't always get like that perfect snap on. I know that from experience, and it does have a few sensor issues, not like tracking or anything. Well, I guess tracking if your desk is at a slanted angle. I don't know if they fixed it yet. Also, you do have to download software for this mouse, because out of the box it comes with like a crazy high debounce time and angle snapping and 500 hertz, and just yeah. The Viper is $40 right now, and they updated the switches and the feet on this mouse. $40. It's gonna go in C tier. The cable is still not the best. It's the same cable as the V2, not the V2 Mini. The V2 Mini shares the same cable as the Viper Mini. So don't get these two confused. But it uses the V2 opticals. They updated it, and it uses PTFE feet now. So for that, if you want an FK1 wire, I suppose you could. This is an option, but there's so many FK1 clones out there. It's just a crowded audience. Both SteelSeries mice, I don't even need to talk about it. Just D tier. Don't buy. Just don't buy them. Viper Mini is gonna go in S tier. $30. V2 opticals. The only mod you need to do to this, realistically, is shave down the sensor ring. That's the only mod. And then this is like this is still an S tier mouse with the stock cable. The stock cable is really bad, but if you use a good bungee, I think it's livable. And same with the feet. The feet are pretty bad, but for $30, you're lucky you're even getting PTFE feet. The Viper Ultimate is gonna also go in S tier. I still think these two share the throne of King of Wireless. Because the Viper Ultimate has much better wireless tech and the better sensor, but it is 14 grams heavier, and you really can't compare them because they're just such different shapes. And I like V2 opticals better than 20Ms. And as I said, I don't know if I actually said this yet, the G Pro Wireless and the G Pro X quality is not fixed. As I think I already said that. The switches just aren't fixed. But I'm really hoping it was just something to do with the PCB. Skull Mini is going to go in C tier. I had this mouse once for 11 hours, and then the PCB died in 11 hours. So, yeah, and that's actually pretty common with this mouse. There are a few other tech reviewers that have had their Skull Mini PCB die. So, I don't know what that's about. And these switches were extremely inconsistent. The scroll wheel was amazing, in my opinion, though. But just weird that the PCB just died. And it's like their only model that had like PCBs that died. I don't know what it is. The Skull is going to go in also C tier. It's a behemoth of a mouse. It's massive. Like, the mouse is massive. I don't know what sized hand is going to fit this mouse, but if you have a gigantic hand, I guess it's a viable option for you. The stock cable is pretty solid. Ultralight 2 is still going to go in A tier. You can get it on Mouse Market now for like $80. I see it sometimes like $70. The price has really dipped. And a few mods, and it's really solid. So, yeah. I don't really need to explain the final mouse. Like, everybody knows about the Ultralight 2. We're going to save the Aim Gods mouse flask, because I'm going to make its own tier. The Atom Palm Hydrogen. This is I can't remember if it's carbon fiber or not, but it's an 8,000 hertz polling rate mouse. It's not released yet, but the cable looks terrible. But it is going to be under $100, so you could just put a new cable on it. And it's extremely light, but I really hope it's just not a Palm mouse, because I would take it down to like D tier. It does have the word Palm in it. I really hope it's not meant for only Palm, because that would really suck. Yeah. The M1K is also going to go in A tier. You can get this mouse third party, but it's extremely expensive. But it is 27 grams, and it's made out of carbon fiber. And it has Japanese Omrons. So people are going to say, oh, well, you're saying don't buy the Air 58 for 200. Well, these are completely different circumstances. This is a carbon fiber 27 gram mouse that uses Japanese Omrons. So, yeah. This is a really, like, solid option. The Aim Gods mouse, I'm not gonna, I don't know. I'm gonna make this its own tier. We're gonna put don't know, because this mouse we just don't know anything about. We know everything, but we know how Final Mouse is. They like to say things and then they never happen. Like, I don't think it's actually gonna be 36 grams. It's made out of like some type of magnesium. I think it's gonna be close to like 40, 45. I know this seems like 10 grams, like they wouldn't lie about 10 grams, but yeah, I think they would. They just use the same Omron 20Ms. It's gonna perform like a normal mouse. So, that's gonna be the end of this video. That was my tier list. Peace.